The audition hall was silent. Grand chandeliers, polished marble floors, a Steinway grand piano positioned dead center under a single white spotlight. 3 judges sat behind a long mahogany table. 2 watched politely. 1 leaned back in his chair, already unimpressed. When the next contestant walked out, a few whispers rippled through the audience. 17 years old, second-hand suit, shoes slightly worn, dark skin against the bright stage lights. The judge on the far left adjusted his glasses. Then he chuckled, not loudly, but loudly enough. "You're here for the Chopin competition?" he asked, skepticism dripping from every syllable. The boy nodded. "Yes, sir." The judge smirked. Bold choice. A few scattered laughs from the small private audience. The boy didn't respond. He just walked to the piano, sat down, placed his fingers on the keys. And that was the moment everything changed. His name was Malik Thompson, raised in a neighborhood where music meant church choirs and car stereos blasting through open windows. Not classical concert halls, not European composers, not private conservatories. His mother worked as a hospital cleaner. His father had passed when he was 8. The only piano Malik had ever practiced on was a chipped upright in the basement of their church. Half the keys slightly out of tune, 1 key sticking if pressed too hard. But he didn't complain. He practiced before school, after school, sometimes past midnight. His mother would wake up and walk downstairs quietly, leaning against the doorway, watching her son's back straighten every time he played. "You're going to play in big rooms one day," she once whispered. He believed her, even when no one else did. The Northbridge International Youth Piano Competition was prestigious, elite, selective. Most contestants trained at private academies since childhood. Many had flown in from Europe and Asia. Parents wore tailored suits. Music teachers hovered nearby, offering last-minute advice in hushed tones. Malik arrived alone, carrying borrowed sheet music in a slightly bent folder. When he signed in, the receptionist glanced at his address. Brows lifted briefly. "Oh," she said, "you're early." "Yes, ma'am." The other contestants barely made eye contact, and when his name was called, the air felt heavier. The skeptical judge, Professor William Hargrove, was a legend in classical music circles. Brilliant, respected, known for his harsh critiques, also known for dismissing what he called unrefined interpretations. When Malik sat down, Professor Hargrove leaned toward his microphone. "You understand this is not a talent show," he said dryly. "It's Chopin." Malik nodded. "Yes, sir." A faint laugh escaped Hargrove. "Let's hope so." Malik adjusted the bench, closed his eyes briefly. But before he could begin, Hargrove spoke again. "You may start whenever you're comfortable." The tone lingered, mocking. The faintest snicker escaped from somewhere in the small audience. Malik heard it, felt it, but something inside him had already hardened over the years. He had been underestimated before. Teachers who suggested more realistic goals. Students who said classical music wasn't his thing. Neighbors who asked why he didn't play something more lively. He had heard it all. He inhaled slowly, placed his hands on the keys, and began. Chopin's Ballade No. 1 in G minor, one of the most technically demanding pieces in the repertoire. The opening notes were soft, deliberate, almost whispering. The room shifted. The sound that came from that piano was not hesitant. It was precise, controlled, mature. His dynamics were impeccable. Every crescendo intentional. Every pause alive with tension. Professor Hargrove's smirk faded almost immediately. His pen, which had been ready to scribble criticism, stopped midair, because this wasn't imitation. It was interpretation. Malik wasn't copying recordings. He was telling a story. And by the time he reached the first powerful cascade of arpeggios, the hall was breathless. The faster passages came like controlled lightning. His fingers blurred, but not a single note was lost. Not rushed, not forced. It was emotional, but disciplined, passionate, but refined. Professor Hargrove leaned forward, eyes narrowed, not in judgment anymore, but in focus. The second judge glanced sideways at him, because everyone in that room felt it. This was no fluke. This was mastery born from hunger. When Malik reached the final explosive sequence, his entire body moved with the music. Then, the last chord rang out, sustained, resonant, and faded into silence. Complete silence. No immediate applause. Just stunned stillness. Then, one person stood. Then another. Then the entire room erupted. Professor Hargrove did not clap immediately. He stared at Malik, long, studying him, as if recalculating something internal. Finally, he pressed his microphone button. "What conservatory are you attending?" he asked. "I'm not," Malik replied. A murmur rippled across the room. Hargrove blinked. "You're self-taught." "Yes, sir, with help from my church director." The judge's posture shifted. "You understand," Hargrove said slowly, "that interpretation of Chopin requires cultural sensitivity and historical context." Malik nodded. "Yes, sir. And where did you learn that?" Malik looked directly at him for the first time. "In the music." The room went quiet again, because that answer wasn't arrogant. It was honest. When scores were tallied later that afternoon, whispers filled the waiting area. Some contestants seemed shaken. Others stared at Malik differently now, not dismissively, but cautiously. The final announcement echoed through the hall. First place, Malik Thompson. Gasps. Applause. His mother covered her mouth in tears from the back row. Professor Hargrove stepped onto the stage to present the medal. The same judge who had laughed. He handed Malik the award, and for a moment their eyes met. "You have rare instinct," Hargrove said quietly, off mic. "Do not waste it." Malik nodded. "Thank you." But he added one more sentence. "I won't." The performance clip spread online. Classical music forums buzzed. Music schools reached out. Scholarship offers followed. But what mattered most was a shift in perception. Because in interviews later, when asked about the judge's laugh, Malik never attacked him. He simply said, "Sometimes people hear you before they see you. Sometimes they see you before they hear you. I just needed him to listen." Years later, Professor Hargrove would reference that audition in a masterclass. "I once underestimated a young man," he admitted. "It reminded me that music does not belong to a background. It belongs to discipline." And Malik? He went on to perform at Carnegie Hall. But he never forgot the basement piano, the chipped keys, the nights when no one applauded. Because the real performance was believing in yourself when someone laughs. He walked in underestimated. He sat down doubted. He was laughed at before he even touched a key. But when he played, the laughter disappeared. Because talent does not argue. It performs. And sometimes the loudest answer is music